Hi, and welcome to the Transcend and Succeed show. I'm Dawn Livingstone, and today's episode we are going to talk about Transcendental Meditation with my special guest, Barbara Ann Briggs. Now, I'll introduce her right after this. Stay with us. And today I am pleased to introduce Barbara Ann Briggs. Now, Barbara is a podcaster and the author of 2 books, and one of which we will be discussing today. And she is a practitioner and teacher of Transcendental Meditation with over 30 years experience. So welcome to the show, Barbara.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here.
You're so
It's a great
welcome.
pleasure to be able to speak to you.
Thank you. Thank you. So let me start by asking you about Transcendental Meditation. Now, you've been a practitioner and a teacher for over 30 years. So can you tell us what happened in your life that made you begin studying it?
My introduction to Transcendental Meditation was very innocent. I was actually, after I'd finished my philosophy degree in New York, I went to London to study at the London School of Contemporary Dance. And while I was there, my music teacher, I was reading a book called In Search of the Miraculous by Uspensky. And in one of the chapters, he spoke about experiencing deeper, more subtle levels of sound. And I asked my percussion teacher about this, and he suggested that I go to a lecture on Transcendental Meditation. So I respected him very much. He was very kind and very knowledgeable person. And I went to a lecture on Transcendental Meditation at Imperial College in London. And the lecturer spoke about Transcendental Meditation, and he spoke about how much research was behind this practice. It had been printed in very respectable magazines like Scientific American. And they spoke about faster reaction time, better mind-body coordination, more energy. And I just felt that with all that scientific evidence, this is something that would certainly help me in my dance, in my studies of dance. So I did learn Transcendental Meditation the following weekend, and I was very pleasantly surprised when I discovered later on that it was much more than just a technique that could help me with reaction time and mind-body coordination and energy levels. It was actually a very profound teaching, which came from a very ancient tradition of knowledge, the Vedic tradition of knowledge. And it was a technique for the development of higher states of consciousness. And I was very pleased when I made that discovery. So I came to Transcendental Meditation for a very simple reason. I wanted to become a better dancer at that time, but I found out it was a spiritual practice for the development of higher states of consciousness. And I was very pleased with that. That's how I came to it.
Interesting. And what's the difference with transcendental meditation and just the regular meditation? What are the differences?
What regular meditation is, but transcendental meditation is unique because it doesn't involve any effort. Most other meditation practices do involve some concentration or some effort. And this is why some people get disillusioned. They think that they can't meditate. It's too difficult because it involves effort. But transcendental meditation is a very simple, natural, and effortless mental technique that's practiced by over 10 million people in 100 different countries around the world. We've taught people who are over 100 years old to meditate, and we've also taught children from the age of 10 years old to meditate. Anyone who can think a thought can meditate, and usually we have more thoughts than we know what to do with. So transcendental meditation is extremely easy to learn. There's no effort involved. It's very simple, natural, and effortless. It's practiced for 20 minutes twice a day, 20 minutes in the morning and 20 minutes in the early evening, sitting comfortably with the eyes closed. And we practice a very simple technique, which can be learned in about a week. The course takes about less than a week to learn this meditation.
Okay. So how do you learn to calm down your chaotic mind? Because I know mine just sometimes doesn't shut up for quite a while.
Well,
And
well,
I think a lot of people have, difficulty in calming that mind down.
yes, this is a common experience. You usually have more thoughts than you know what to do with. It's like having a bit like static on a radio. You're hearing the song, but you're also hearing the static in the background. So transcendental meditation, what it is we practice a certain technique. Usually the mind is always directed outwards. We're always thinking about something. We're directing the mind through the five senses. But that's why with transcendental meditation, we need a vehicle to turn the mind inwards, because otherwise the mind will always be directed in the outward direction. So the vehicle which turns the mind in the inward direction is the mantra. The mantra comes from the Vedic tradition of knowledge, which is thousands of years old. And the mantra is used to turn the mind in the inward direction. And then the dive to those quieter and quieter and quieter levels of the thinking process happens automatically. And how does it happen automatically? That's what you might be asking that question. How can we transcend so automatically? Well, the uniqueness of the transcendental meditation technique is that it only uses the natural tendency of the mind to move in the direction of more and more happiness. Everybody's mind wants more happiness. Everyone wants more creativity. Everyone wants more energy. Everyone wants more success, more intelligence, more fulfillment. And the transcendental meditation technique only uses this natural tendency of the mind to go in the direction of more and more and more. So we take that inward dive. We use the mantra to take the inward dive. Then the mind spontaneously moves in the direction of pure consciousness. Pure consciousness is the deepest, most settled, simplest state of human awareness. And the mind gravitates toward pure consciousness because pure consciousness is a state of bliss, pure bliss. It's been called Sat Chit Ananda, eternal consciousness of bliss. And moving in the direction of unbounded awareness is so fulfilling to the mind. It frees the mind from all its limitations. It allows the mind to calm down without any effort. We just take the correct angle and the mind, poof, and it goes just in the direction of more and more quietness, and then transcending thought altogether and experiencing the source of thought. The source of thought is pure consciousness, that field, the unified field, the field of pure existence, pure intelligence. So everyone's mind goes in that direction spontaneously. And it doesn't take any effort on the part of the mind. It's just like, for instance, people say, "Oh, my mind is like a monkey. It's jumping from one tree." But then you stop for a minute and say, "Look at the monkey. What is it? It's jumping from tree to tree, but what does it actually want? It's searching for food. It's trying to find some bananas. And as soon as it finds the bananas, it stops and it starts eating the bananas. In the same way, as soon as we move in the direction of pure consciousness, whew, and we're there, and it's so fulfilling. There's no searching anymore because we've reached that state of unbounded awareness. So it's something that everyone's mind wants. Everyone wants to have that feeling of unbounded awareness free from all limitations, free from all restrictions, that field of pure intelligence, that field of pure creativity, this state of perfect balance, the state of infinite orderliness. Everyone's mind wants that. And that's what we're destined. That's the natural gift of the human mind, that to experience pure consciousness. We're the only species who has the ability to experience that self-referral state of pure consciousness. That's the gift of the human nervous system.
I like the way you put that about the monkeys jumping from tree to tree looking for a banana. That's an absolutely great way of putting it, and I will remember that. Now, you said that there's the meditation is used with a mantra. Is this a specific mantra, or is it a specific thing for each person, or are you able to make up your own mantra?
No, no. The mantra is especially suited for each individual. We learn that as teachers. The mantra we learn not only we don't just give you a mantra. We give you the technique of how to use it properly, as well as the mantra. Just having a mantra would not be of very much value. And the way the mantras are selected, they're selected to suit the individual. And this is something you learn as a teacher of Transcendental Meditation. And the mantras come from the Vedic tradition of knowledge. This tradition of knowledge is thousands of years old. It was passed down through an oral tradition. And the latest custodian of this tradition of knowledge was Mahashi's master. And Mahashi's master was the Shankaracharya of Jyotirmat in the Himalayas. And Mahashi spent many years with his master. And Mahashi has brought out the tradition, revived the tradition of knowledge, and trained many thousands and thousands of teachers all over the world, so that you are able to learn in any major city in any part of the world, and you will be learning in the same systematic way that Mahashi taught us to teach.
Okay. And I know there are some people that are quite skeptical about meditation, and you've been doing this for over 30 years now. You've been teaching this for over 30 years. What would you have to say to the skeptics about how it's changed your life?
Well, I would say, come on, any skeptics, you're most welcome. Please come. I extend an open invitation to all skeptics, because this is not a religion. This is not a belief. This is not a philosophy of life. You don't have to believe it in order for it to work. It's a scientific technique. Just like if you use a lever, if you want to move a boulder so that it falls off the cliff, you just use a lever and it automatically falls. In the same sense, that's a scientific technique, the use of the lever. The same way, this is a scientific technique. You can come and learn whether you believe in it or not, and it will still have the same effect, because it's actually a scientific technique. And it's a scientific methodology to expand the conscious capacity of the mind. So I can say from my own experience of meditating for so many years, one of the first things I noticed when I started to meditate was that I was getting my desires fulfilled much more quickly. What I wanted, it was coming to me. And that's really more and more and more and more as the years go by. Because as you become more in tune with natural law supports the fulfillment of your desires. And Maharshi says that's a test of the growth of higher states of consciousness, how quickly your desires are fulfilled. So that's one of the first things I noticed when I started to meditate. And another thing which has been very beneficial for me is the strength of the immune system. I can say I've lived in India for more than 18 years, and I think I've only gone to a hospital twice for a checkup, a one-day visit. I got bitten by some mosquitoes in South India, and it was cured in 2 weeks with Ayurvedic medicine. And the other reason was I had dysentery, and I went to a hospital once in 18 years. So I've never stayed in any hospital at all in these 18 years I've been in India. And I've traveled quite widely in Europe as well. And my immune system, through the grace of this wonderful meditation, is very strong. My immune system is very strong. I hardly ever get sick. Once in a while, I might get a cold. And other than that, when I started to meditate, I've been writing stories, children's stories, when I was 10 or 11. And I've been writing poetry when I was in New York before I came to Europe. But when I started meditating in London, as soon as I finished my meditation, I just pick up my pen and the poem would just come fully formed out of the pen. And some of my best poems that I'd ever written, I wrote in my first few years of meditating, because the poems would just immediately, when I finished my meditation, the poem was right there. So I can say that I could say that my creative juices were
definitely flowing.
stimulated.
Yeah. Yeah, because you're connected. You're so deeply connected,
Yeah,
and that makes such a difference in your life when
it does.
you learn to surrender to the field, I find, and not resist anything. Life just flows. And like you said, you're able to manifest things a lot easier. You know, they come to you a lot faster. So other than that, I suppose, and your immune system being really top peak, is there anything else that over the 30 years you have really noticed that this meditation has helped you to expand with?
Well, this meditation is wonderful, but I have to say that Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, my guru, who's revived the purity of the teaching, he's given us so much knowledge. Maharshi is the most videotaped spiritual leader in the world, I think, and his knowledge touches on every area of human life. I've learned so much from Maharshi. I've learned all about Ayurveda. I've studied pulse diagnosis. I've studied Sanskrit because Maharshi recommended that we should study Sanskrit. So I did study Sanskrit. I've studied Indian classical music. I was a sitar student. I've studied Jyotish. I've studied almost every aspect of the knowledge Maharshi has brought out. And it has added such fullness to my life. I know quite a lot about Ayurvedic routines, the Ayurvedic diet and digestion, what I should eat in which season of the year, what's good for my particular physiology, for my build. Maharshi has given us, I've learned pulse diagnosis, how to take my own pulse so that I know how my physiology is doing and if there are any imbalances cropping up. I've learned an immense amount from Maharshi because he's brought out such a vast array of knowledge in every aspect of the Vedic tradition that I can say that my whole life has been transformed as a result of being introduced to this knowledge. And I can't really express my gratitude enough. It has changed my entire life. It wouldn't be the same without Maharshi.
Great. And so I'm assuming that once you're in this deep level and you're in the fields, it helps with the habits that you have at the minute from, to disconnect from those habits that are not serving you and allow you to create new ones. Would that be correct?
The beautiful thing is that you just start the meditation innocently. We don't recommend that anyone change their lifestyle. We don't recommend any particular diet. We don't recommend a belief system, nothing like that. Simply, innocently, you begin the practice. Anything that's not helpful to you will fall away. And this has been the experience with people who take drugs, who smoke, who take alcohol. They stop having the urge to indulge in things which will harm their health and injure their physiology. They just don't want to turn to that anymore because the body is becoming healthier. And when they move in the direction of something which is a violation of natural law, which will be harmful for the physiology, something inside of them says, no, I don't want it. No, don't take it. And it's just a spontaneous thing. There's no psychoanalysis in this technique. You don't have to pinpoint the problem. It's just that any knots in the physiology, any stress will be released as a result of the very deep rest we gain during the practice. As we know, whenever there's any imbalance in the system, whenever we're not feeling well, the first prescription that the doctor gives us is take more rest. Are you sleeping well during the night? Are you resting enough? and most people are not, or they have some problem with sleep. And that's why the physiology can't heal itself. But the body has within it the ability to heal itself of any ailment if it's given the proper initial conditions. And with Transcendental Meditation, one of the first studies which alerted the scientific community to the great benefit of this practice was that during the first 10 minutes of meditation, the level of sleep is nearly twice as deep as the level of rest is nearly twice as deep as the level of rest we gain after 6 hours of sleep during the night. And that was measured in terms of oxygen consumption. So we gain a very deep level of rest. And the rest we gain normally during the night can only get rid of the surface fatigue that we gain during the day. But the level of rest we gain during TM gets rid of more deeply rooted stresses and strains that sleep cannot alleviate. So that's why all the health benefits come because of the very deep rest we gain during the Transcendental Meditation technique. And there have been so many studies which show there's normalization of high blood pressure, there's a decrease of hormones related to stress in the blood, there's decreased blood pressure, and there's more synchrony and coherence between the right and left hemispheres of the brain, more integration of the whole brain functioning. There's more self-actualization. There's better social relationships. There's better job performance. There's better IQ increases. All these different parameters were studied, and they found that every aspect of life, mental, physical, social interactions, everything, even their implications for a whole city to become freer from crime, freer from accidents, and freer from hospital admissions as a result of 1% of the population practicing TM. So there's been so many scientific studies which have shown that the holistic value of life improves. And this is because the stresses and strains are being systematically released from the physiology.
And it's all fantastic benefits. I think that's a list of everything that everybody wants. So, and who knows, you can get it from TM. I know. Okay, now's probably a good time. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back after the break, we are going to talk about your book. I know you wanted to discuss that today. But for the viewers, if you could stick around, because Barbara is going to tell us a fun fact about her, something that she has done that you probably haven't. So stick around and we'll be right back.
Introduces the most powerful health enhancement device in the world, the Lord's Hydrofix Premium Edition. Studies have shown therapeutic potential for cancer, diabetes, digestive and heart issues, and essentially every organ and system in the body. Visit holyhydrogen.com to see the latest technology that elevates your immune system and fights inflammation. This isn't medical advice, but if you have any health concerns, I strongly recommend that you learn more about hydrogen. Visit holyhydrogen.com to learn more about this groundbreaking gold standard hydrogen generator that for a reasonable price creates therapeutic quality hydrogen gas for inhalation and hydrogen infused water for consumption. Remember, holyhydrogen.com.
Hi, Laura Cross, your host for Mindful Mondays, every Monday at 1 p.m. Central Time, where you can embark on a transformative journey of self-care and ultimate happiness. Tune in to the Voyage to Vitality channel on the Achieve TV network. Mindful Mondays with Laura Cross. Be there, be mindful, and join us on E360 TV.
And we're back today with Barbara Ann Briggs. And Barbara is now going to tell us her fun fact. Take it away, Barbara.
Well, living in India, there's so many fun kind of facts which one experiences here. But one of my most memorable experiences was a trek I took in the Himalayas. There are four very very holy spots high in the Himalayas, and the four spots are Gangotri, Yamunotri, Badrinath, and Kedarnath. So my first trek was to Gangotri. It's in Uttarkashi, so I had to take a bus up from, I think I was living in Haridwar and the bank of the Ganges, but I took a bus up about, I don't know how many hours it was, but I got to Gangotri. That's very high in the Himalayas. It's about 4,000 meters or something. And then from Gangotri, there's an 18-kilometer trek from Gangotri to the Gomukh. Gomukh is the mouth of the Ganges. The Ganges actually rushes out of a glacier high. Yeah, that glacier is 4,023 meters. The height of that glacier is 4,023 meters. And we had to go on a trek. From Gangotri, I traveled 18 kilometers it's 18 kilometers to Gomukh. And on the way, you have to stop in a camp overnight. And then in the morning, you can go from the camp to the mouth of the glacier, where the glacier comes rushing out at full speed. The river Ganges rushes out of the glacier. So I took the trek in the morning after I camped overnight in the Himalayas, and then afterwards I got to the glacier, and it was just remarkable to see the Ganges rushing out of the glacier. And the Ganges is one of the holiest rivers in India, and they say if you bathe in the Ganges, all your sins will be washed away. Well, I can say one thing, that I have taken so many baths in the Ganges, I can't count, but when I first set foot on the bank of the Ganges in Varanasi, when I was studying Sanskrit in Varanasi, and I stood on the bank of the Ganges and I looked at the Ganges, I knew it wasn't just a river. It has such a holy ambiance coming from the Ganges. It's just remarkable. So I'll tell you about, I got to Gomukh and I was standing in front of the glacier, and I saw a man just got into the water, and he was taking the sacred dips. He was immersing himself into the glacial waters. And at that moment, I just said to myself, okay, Barbara, this is the last time you're going to make this trek. It was quite scary, actually, on the cliff edge as I was making that 18 kilometers. And I said, this is the last time you'll make this trek. I think it's better you just go into the water. So I did. I just took my jacket off. I just said, that's it. I'm going in. And I just went into the water. I took 3 full dips from head to toe. I immersed myself completely in the waters, the glacial waters. And I have to say, I felt so much bliss when I got out of the water. I can't really express it. I can't express what the experience was, but I was totally filled with bliss. I was in ecstasy, actually. And I was so happy I'd taken that bath. And it was probably the best bath in the Ganges that I've ever taken, because it was right from the glacial waters. And it was wonderful, actually. And then I came back, and I just felt I fulfilled my purpose.
My
by going
goodness,
on that
I won't
trek.
even ask you how cold it was. I can totally imagine. I've only just been recently finishing off my daily shower with cold water, and that's cold enough for me.
But it was like the experience was so blissful that it transcended cold and heat.
Yeah,
You know,
obviously.
of course I was freezing, but on the other hand, I wasn't freezing because I was so happy.
Yeah.
So, you know, it just means that you can transcend any feeling of limitation just from the bliss. The bliss just cancel out any feeling of discomfort. I didn't feel any discomfort when I came out.
Yeah.
Okay, that's it.
There you go. There you go. That's fantastic. That really is great. Okay, so moving on. In this segment, we're going to talk about your book, and it's this one here. It's The Pilgrimage on the Path of Love. And you've written this novel here, and you refer to this as visionary fiction. So can you explain what that is to us?
Yes, of course. So visionary fiction, it's a term that it denotes a transcendental message that the book brings. It means it has some deeper spiritual dynamics of life, which is revealed in the book. It's not just a story. It reveals something of more transcendental. And usually an important feature of visionary fiction is that there's an evolution of consciousness from a narrow, restricted perception to a more expanded and a broader vision of life. And that's why I spoke about my book as an example of visionary fiction, because in the book, the journey that the protagonist Shantila takes, it's a journey. It's an outward journey in the Himalayas, but it's an inward journey to a deeper understanding of her purpose in life and the true meaning of love. So her inward journey is revealed through meditations, dream experiences, and visions she has. But she's going toward a deeper awareness of who she really is and the purpose of her life and why she's here. So it's more than just a book. It's a book about transformation and reawakening and the opening of the heart and the understanding of the deeper meaning of her own life. So that's what I meant by visionary fiction. It's something that inspires the reader to delve into the unsolved riddles of human life. So that's kind of sums up some of the ideas of visionary fiction. It sheds light on the perennial philosophy of spiritual development, and it helps us to penetrate deeper into the core of our inner being to find the answers we're seeking.
Yeah,
Okay.
I would think it, excuse me, it makes you think of things in a very different way, making you think very deeply about the things that you wrote in the book. Excuse me. And I love that book from start to finish. I have to say, it took me away. Your writing style was great. It is very, I think it's probably the most descriptive book I have read in quite some time. And I would find myself sitting actually in the book when I was reading it. You know, I could see myself in this position. I could see myself on this side of this mountain. I could see myself talking to, you know, one of your characters. It really did take you away, and I absolutely loved it. So about writing this book, where were you when you wrote this book, and how long did it take you to write?
Well, I was living in the Himalayas. I was living in Manali, and Manali is quite high up, and it was a beautiful place. I would go to the forest in the early morning and sit in the middle of the deodar trees, these majestic trees, and this forest, and I would just go, and the sun was pouring through the trees, pouring through the leaves, and I would just sit in the middle of the forest with my pen and my notebook. And I would just start writing and writing and writing in that silent, majestic, um, panoramic view of the Himalayas and the forest. And I'd sit in the forest and write. And then when I was in Ladakh, I just write in my room in Ladakh or on the rooftop. Yeah, I was in the Himalayas. It's a different life, really, and it's so stimulating. And there's a silence there, and I wrote many of the passages just sitting in the mountains and sitting in the forests. And I was in the Himalayas for about a year, and I wrote the book as I was traveling. And yeah, a lot of it was written in the forest, or I even had a tree house that I used to sit in.
Oh, nice.
Someone had built a tree house, and I found that tree house, and it was perfect, actually. I just
Yeah,
climbed up a ladder, sitting in the tree,
yeah,
and
nice.
it was wonderful. Yeah.
Peace and quiet. Yeah. So over what period of time did it take you to
Well,
write?
I wrote while I was in India. I stayed in India at that time for about a year, and I noted down many things that happened, many experiences, and I noted down a lot. And then when I got back, I lived in Holland for a while, and there was a lady there who was an editor, and I let her see the manuscript, and she gave me some suggestions. She liked the manuscript a lot, and I stayed in Holland for 3 months, and fine putting in the final touches of the book, and just refining it and editing it. So that took about 3 more months, and yeah, it took about maybe a year and a half to write the book. About a year and a half, I would say, yeah, with the editing and everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. So let's talk about the insights that your book offers. Can you tell us about some of those?
Yeah, it's like well, there are different aspects of the book. One aspect of the book is that the main character, Shantila, she's from the West, but her natural inclination is to move toward the East. And it's like there are two different aspects. The East is that quality of the spiritual value of life, is that heart quality is more pronounced in the East. And in the West, there's more the intellect, and the material value is more pronounced. And we see these two qualities, how they're interacting with each other. And we see that how she's interacting in India itself. And a lot of the book gives how these two qualities of heart and mind, how they could come into balance with each other. So first of all, they come into balance in the main character, because she's Western, but she's drawn to the East. Her heart draws her toward the East, but she had a Western upbringing. And we see these two conflicts in how they are the interplay in her own awareness, and how she's asking herself, where do I belong? And how do I reconcile these two aspects of my own nature? And then we see her interaction with so many different cultures. There are like 10 or 12 different cultures in the book. And we see how her awareness starts to broaden, and how she's able to appreciate every culture that she meets. It's like a different facet of the multifaceted diamond of life. Life has so many different facets, but it's all part of one diamond of life, which gives the glow and gives the shine and gives the beauty of the wholeness of life. So we see her interaction, and we see how her awareness is broadening and broadening and broadening, so that she can appreciate every aspect, every culture, everyone she meets. She can see them for the beauty of their own nature. And everyone teaches her something about life. Everyone gives her a different message, and gives her an insight into her own life, and helps her to understand why this person is going through this or that. So it encourages people. In the book, one of my reviewers said, this book encourages someone to embrace every different culture, every different religion, irrespective of their beliefs. And one of my reviewers said, this is the key to achieving world peace. And I recommend this book to the whole world, because it's the key to achieving world peace. Because we see how she's able to blend and to appreciate everybody she meets, and she's able to open herself to the culture and everything. And one of my reviewers said, I'll just read what he said on the review. At the end of the journey, the main character says, the pilgrimage I sought to complete has been completed. not to the temples of Rishikesh, Haridwar, Badrinath, or Gangotri, but to the omnipresent God, to the temple hidden within every human heart, end quote. And my reviewer said this comes as a potent antidote to growing intolerance, bordering on clash of cultures and civilizations that characterizes a world in individual as well as collective distress. So he said the book was an antidote to the clash of cultures that we see in the world today, because it gives people an understanding of the balanced blending of the East and the West. And it also shows how someone can interact freely with people of all cultures, and it can add to the actual fullness of life. And what it does, it encourages the reader to embrace a new level of unity, even in the midst of the differences, and this new level of unity in the midst of differences is so vital in today's world. That's what we need more than anything else. We need tolerance and shared interest and cooperation and appreciation of all the different cultures in the world, so that we see that everyone is a different facet of the diamond of life, and everyone has a role to play in the expansion and the growth and the progress of the whole planet. So these are some of the ideas that I think my book imparts.
Well, let me add to that, kindness and compassion. I think because Chantilla ran into a lot of troubles on her journey. Some of it was financial, some of it was, just not understanding how to get to a place or how she's going to get to the place. And you always met someone close by or very, very soon that was able to help you out, whether it be for food, whether it be to give you some money, or whether to give you a lift to somewhere.
Yes, and this is a very important point, Dawn, because this is what I meant when I want you want to tell that in the book I bring out the idea between spiritual wealth and material wealth. Well, I had no material wealth when I was really, I had a very low budget. I was traveling on very little. I've done that for many, many years in India. But I've always survived. It's been unbelievable, the kind of help I get. And the thing is, this is what the Maharshi always says, the means, it's not important how much money you have. The means, the ability always collects around sattva. And sattva means purity of life. As long as you're leading a somewhat pure life, you're living with integrity, honesty, sincerity, kindness, compassion. Your heart is open, and nature will just support and bring you what you need at the time that you need it. It's not like you will ever be lost. I have been in India with almost nothing in so many situations. And I have been rescued from the most unbelievable circumstances, just like it's just fallen from out of nowhere. And I felt so taken care of, because it's like nature just nourishes you. As long as I was meditating the whole time, of course, and I'm doing my meditation regularly. And when you nourish nature, nature nourishes you. When you meditate, you're nourishing the whole of life, because you're radiating pure consciousness. You're radiating waves of love and bliss and balance and order and peace and harmony. So you're radiating those qualities into the environment. And when you radiate harmony and bliss and peace and balance, nature supports you. Then you get supported by the laws of nature. And whenever you need something, it just comes. And that's what I found. And that's what's exemplified in the book. Whenever I had unbelievable help when I was in the Himalayas. And as you read the book, you'll just be astounded. My whole trip to Ladakh was given to me for free. The bus driver just said, you can go for free on the bus. Never mind, I want you to go to the temples. So and also India is an incredible place like that. The people are incredibly helpful. So it's just amazing. India is an amazing place to live. I've never found so much generosity and helpfulness anywhere else in my life, actually. So
Well,
yes,
I think
that's
that
true.
your level of trust that, you know, Creator or God, the universe, will bring you whatever you need because you're taken care of. Therefore, you are open to receiving it, so you manifest it a lot quicker.
Exactly. You have to be open to receiving it too.
Absolutely.
You know, you have to, have the trustworthiness. You have to be trustworthy, and you have to trust the people, and you have to see the good in them. When you see the good in them, then they see the good in you, and then nature sees the good, and then everything is working for your good. So it's what you bring to it. And, even if you have so much money, you may not have any happiness inside. That might be material wealth, but spiritual poverty. You're feeling like you have nothing. You're feeling completely anxious, worried, tense, fearful, and you have so much money you feel someone might take it from you. That's not spiritual wealth. That might be material wealth. But spiritual wealth, your fullness inside,
Yeah.
whether you have $100 or $50 or $3 or 3 cents, you still feel okay.
Yeah.
Because I bring out the episode in the book. There was a man, a Muslim couple were riding on their motorbike in Hyderabad in South India, and it was pouring outside. It must have been the monsoon. They saw a very old man. He looked like he hadn't eaten for a very long time. He was very thin. He had a bag over his head. And they stopped their motorbike and said, "Oh, please take 300 rupees." And the man looked so fragile and so frail. He said, "No, I can't take 300. I will just take 100 rupees." And the Muslim man said, "Please take 300 rupees. I'm worried about you. You look like you haven't eaten." And he said, "No, I cannot. I shall only take 100. Thank you very much." And then he left. And they couldn't understand why he didn't take the 300 rupees. But it was because he didn't really feel he wanted it. He just wanted just enough to eat the next meal. And that was more than enough. So he just felt, "I don't need any more. I don't want to take it. Thank you very much."
Yeah. Because I
So
know it's
this is
coming to me
unusual.
later on. Yeah, I can take this
Yeah,
amount for now, thank you, but I trust in the flow of life that everything
yes,
will be good and my
exactly.
next meal will come. Yeah, I know it's incredible.
Yeah.
It is
And they
incredible.
felt he was a very spiritual person, and they were
Yeah,
probably right. Yeah.
yeah. I also like that you wrote about a spiritual path in relation to the monasteries being up on the top of the mountains. Can you elaborate a bit more on that?
Oh, yeah. So most of the time, and especially in Ladakh, the monasteries are high up on a very high mountain. You have to kind of trek up to them. And this is natural because the spiritual path we is a path of ascending higher and higher and higher. The growth to higher states of consciousness is an ascent. We're always going up, up, up. And we know from our own experience when we reach the top of the mountain how expanded our vision is. We can see for miles around when we're on the top of the mountain. And this is the example of the growth to higher states of consciousness. As we ascend to higher states of consciousness, our awareness expands more and more and more and more until in the unity consciousness, the highest state, Brahman consciousness, our individual awareness has become one with the farthest expansion of the whole universe. With the farthest reaches of the universe, our awareness has become one with the entirety of creation. So this is the ultimate expansion of awareness. And our vision expands more and more as we grow, as we develop higher states of consciousness. So it's symbolic that the monasteries are on the top of the mountain, and the monastery is symbolic of that spiritual direction that we have to take to reach enlightenment. And Maharshi says the path is bumpy. It's not going to always be smooth. It's bumpy. I mean, I was so glad when Maharshi said that, because I thought my path has been bumpy. And then someone said, "Is the path bumpy?" Maharshi said, "It's bumpy." Yes, it's bumpy.
Yeah, it's definitely
It's
not
not
going
always.
in one direction all the time. I think we all think that here's where we are, here's where I want to be.
Yeah,
Therefore,
yeah,
the only line is to go that way. They don't understand it. It can go this way, it can go back and forward.
yes,
It's not all in
yes,
the right
yes,
direction. You're going to meet
yes,
obstacles,
yes,
you're going to meet challenges that will help you to grow and expand at the same time. I truly believe
Exactly.
that. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. And sometimes we let's say the boat is moving forward, and then sometimes um, suddenly it starts moving backwards, and we're thinking, well, why is the boat moving backwards? And actually, because there was a glacier just in front of the boat, and if it kept moving forward, the boat would have crashed. So sometimes the move back is necessary in order to move forward. So there's a back and forward motion, but it's always in the evolutionary direction. So even if we have to stop and take a rest, or we have to go in another direction, it's always moving progressively forward, but it might seem to be moving back, or it might seem to be going in another direction, but it's always toward progress.
Yeah. So whenever you feel like you're taking one step forward and then getting 3 steps back, it's really not the case. It's actually you learning, and that's the process of learning that you need to go through on your
Exactly.
journey to expand. Yeah, I think the way you wrote it in the book was fantastic. I really, really liked that. That was why I wanted you to tell us about it today. We've not got too much longer, but can you expand a little bit more on the perfection? You were saying perfection isn't everything. Can
Yes,
you
yes,
expand on that? I thought
yes,
it was
because
lovely.
that's a very important part of the book, and that idea of perfection is is so important, because actually I feel that this is a perfect universe, even though on the surface many things might look incongruent. We might not understand why they're happening, but that's because of the limitations of our own mind. If we had unbounded knowledge of everything, the complete design of the whole universe, we would see that everything is happening in the perfect way it was meant to happen, because the universe is run by cosmic law. It's not random, it's not chaotic, it's not accident. It's cosmic law which is ruling the universe. And because the cosmic law is infallible and eternal, and it presides over everything, there's nothing that's out of place. And I'd like to read a little bit from my book about this very question you
Please.
asked me.
Yes.
Okay, okay. It says, in that moment of truth, I realized that so many times we look outside, searching for a perfection which already exists inside all the time. We search for the perfect companion, the perfect piece of music, the perfect cloth to wear, the perfect house, the perfect meal, but the perfection is already everywhere. Omnipresent, it evades our gaze. Like the musk deer who carries the most heavenly fragrance within itself, who wanders in search of that divine fragrance, covering countless miles of hills and forests, roaming far and wide, until it finds that the fragrance is created by itself. Like that deer are we, in search of the fulfillment which will never wane, and which exists eternally deep within our own heart. But where can we find it? Unseen is that, unmeasured by time or space, unheard except in silence, undigested except when cooked by the inner fire deep within the temple of the heart. We find it only by becoming one with it, by leaning inward toward the music. The dance and the dancer become one. In the silence between the Lama's prayers, I realized that there was nowhere to go and nothing to do. I realized that each moment contained all that we could ever seek to know, to feel, and to believe. Each moment contained perfection. I remembered who I was, a simple child, an aged pilgrim, a mother of creation, a human being made in the image of the eternal being, that one, unbreathed upon, ever giving life to all, ever reborn, ever the same. The Lama's prayers reawakened something in me which had forgotten the interwoven fabric of love, of which all that is made.
I know, and it was so beautifully written. I have to say, I really loved that, and I wanted you to read that. That is all we've got time for, Barbara. It's been a wonderful conversation. I thoroughly enjoyed that book. I've put the information back up here, and people can take a snap of this, and they can order it should they wish. But I would highly recommend it. And this has been the most amazing conversation. And I want to thank you for agreeing to come on. Thank you so much.
It's been such a pleasure for me. I enjoyed it tremendously. And thank you so much for your invitation. Thank you so much. I've had a great time.
And thank you to the viewers. We will see you next week. So take care until then.